Good evening, everybody. Corey Thomas coming at you live from Lake Cumberland. Guys, it's been a little bit since we've done a live feed. Thought I would get on here and do one this evening. Hopefully some of you guys can get on here after you get off work and getting home. If not, I'll post it to my YouTube channel and it'll be on my Facebook page too, so you can watch it here later. For you all that don't know me, I'll just start this off with, my name is Corey, and it's been 42 days since I've caught my last crappie. I think it's the longest stretch I've gone without fishing in a long time. So yeah, I'm excited. Tomorrow that's about to change. There won't be 43 days. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Got the boat all ready to roll. Got a fresh service on it. Got some projects out of the way this winter, and she is tip top ready to roll. So excited. Gonna give Lake Cumberland a whirl in the morning. Gonna just kind of walk you guys through my process this evening of just preparation I am for the trip tomorrow. It's just gonna be, I'd like to do a live seminar on the water tomorrow, but hey, Danny, long time, brother. Yeah, so I'd like to give you all just kind of what I've done to prepare for this. This is a scouting trip. I'm gonna try to do an on the water seminar if it'll work, if we got a good enough signal, but where I plan on going, I don't think I will. So what I'm gonna do, I got a buddy going with me. We'll probably just run the GoPros and do some video clips and try to piece it together, and then I'll post it up later on this week and show you guys, we'll see with what we're going, what I prepared for. We'll see how it worked and give you guys the recap and show you guys some on the water stuff and hopefully some good fish catches. So yeah, we'll try and keep it interactive. If I can do it live out in the water and we got a good enough signal, we will do that. Monty, what's up, buddy? So last time I kind of got busy last week, so I couldn't really do the seminar I was going to do on tackle organization. We'll do a little bit of that tonight. Later on this week, I got some more stuff coming. I'm going to go ahead and get all of my stuff ready for the whole year. So I'll start with a little bit of tackle stuff. I've been looking for a while for like the proper just organization system. I think I stumbled across something at Walmart that it's cost effective, and I think it's going to work pretty good. So it's not really a tackle box, but I think these are made by Hart. They're toolboxes, but what I like is they've got a gasket on the inside, so it looks like they're going to be pretty waterproof. They are pretty good about being to where they're pretty flat, not pretty low profile. And what I like is they snap together, so when you're carrying them, you just basically lock them together and you can snap them together. And so I've got 5 of these trays and they'll snap together. But basically, I think what I'm going to do is set up, I've got what I consider like my working box. This is the box I'm going to be in tomorrow. All I'm going to have is this. I'm going to show you on the table here in a second. When we get done, I'll show you exactly all the tackle that's going to be in the boat tomorrow. But what I'll probably do is set up just like my working box. This is going to be mainly like a jig casting box. Then I'll probably do another tray that's just trolling. And then I will probably do a terminal tackle tray. And then I'll probably do one with just most common plastics and different things. But basically my goal is to just have a good, hey, what's up, Colin? I need to get a hold of you and Penny. We need to get that trip finalized up in May or June, whenever we're going to do it. But yeah, what I'm going to do is try to get everything condensed down into this one box, and I've done it. So that, I don't have a whole bunch of different stuff laying. Basically everything that I think I'll be using tomorrow will be in this one box. And then if I need to, if there's a color or something, I'll have different stuff, backup stuff down in the storage in the boat. But I just want basically everything I'm gonna need just readily available in one box. And chances are, 8 or 9 out of 10 times, basically you pretty much know what you're gonna be using. I mean, there's always, days where it's going to be tough. So we'll get into that here in a minute as far as what I'm preparing for tomorrow. But I'll just kind of show you guys exactly what this box has in it. So a lot of people want to know, what exactly do I need to get? Well, what I've got in here, basically, I've got tungsten eye hole jigs. I've got some chartreuse and pink there. I got the white there, and then I've got the gray color there. In this little slot here, I've got some different colors of the cross. Really liking that profile. If I'm going to get into some snaggier stuff, I got some 16th ounce double cross jigs. I've got some regular 16th ounce eye hole jigs. So I've got some assorted different tungsten eye hole Popeyes. I got the black and chartreuse, and these are the white and gray. And then in these, this is the regular crappie magnet in show enough. This is the trout magnet in show enough. Right here is the trout magnet in gunmetal. This is the crappie magnet in gunmetal. This is a crappie magnet in millie. And then this is a color that doesn't really have a name, but I really like it in the cold water, and we're going to have probably the coldest water. So it's just kind of a sparkly blue color. Actually, it doesn't have a name. This is kind of like it's just kind of a bluish tint with a rainbow glitter, and just a really nice, kind of like an icicle color. But you can see it's got a lot of flash, and it's a really cool bait. Maybe they'll make that one of these days. That was kind of just a prototype thing. But then I've got some assorted different Popeyes in this small little box here. So in case I need to go smaller on the Popeyes, and then I've got slab bites, 3 different colors. So this is everything that's going to be in the boat tomorrow. And so, we've had some super cold weather. Like I said, it's been 42 days since I've been on the water. I'm sure a lot has changed, but I'm sure it's really not going to be that hard to get them patterned down. I mean, it's the winter pattern, so I've got quite a bit of experience. I live on this lake, so I've been fishing a long time in the winter. I'm going to go kind of off the beaten path area of the lake. Doesn't get a lot of pressure. I live on the Jamestown side, so a lot of people fish like Caney Creek. I'm purposely going to stay out of that creek. It's definitely got a lot of fish in it right now where I live, but it's also getting beat up, and it's the one gotten the most pressure. So we got a little bit of weather coming in later on in the evening tomorrow, so I kind of want to get on these things and get on them fast, and I'd rather not have to deal with anything that's been pressured. So I'm going to go look for some fish that I think are going to be bunched up and not have been pressured. But there's some really big ones here that I can almost look out the window and see them right here close to the house. But I'm going to leave these alone and make a big run and go off the beaten path. And that's the plan anyway. We'll see how it goes. I kind of want to test everything out in the boat and just make sure everything's tip top anyway. So, but anyway. So I feel like these fish are going to be in the winter pattern. We've just had big ice storms, snow, brutal cold temps. Like on the Somerset end of the lake's actually froze over, which I don't know if I've ever seen before. So definitely never fished out in it like that. So you definitely don't want to be up there in Fishing Creek or Burnside area, because it looks like they got, I think the lake's kind of froze over there. So definitely be cognizant of that. I know Green River's pretty hard right now, so it's froze over. So, look, reading here, Brandon's talking about an orange and white crappie magnet. I will forward that along, Brandon, to Jeff. Hey, Brian Dennison, big time, back from Florida. But yeah, so yeah, I'll talk to Jeff. I'll definitely forward your request along, and we'll see see if there's some interest in that, and maybe someday down the road they can get that color you were looking for. But I think these fish are going to be really piled up. So I got a pretty good idea. They're going to be, basically you're going to go up the creek. I don't think they'll be super shallow. They could be shallow in the water column, but I feel like this cold snap, you're going to basically go up the creek until you get to the last deep water, where it's out 30, 40 foot in the middle. And, we're just towards the back of the creek where it flattens out and starts to shallow up. And I feel like they're going to push. And, once you get around them, they're going to be in a 1 or 2 mile section of the creek, and there'll be a lot of them really packed in. So, we're going to be working pretty far back in the creek. Definitely won't be doing anything out in the main lake. It'll be up the creek, but still going to be pushed. It could be even in the mid creek, as far as it just depends on each individual one, but it'll definitely be not on the main lake, up a creek arm, And, you know, once we get around and find the bait, it shouldn't take too long to find them. So this time of year, though, you know, finding them is one thing, but catching them is another. And so definitely you're going to have to be perfect to really catch them, because they're not really just going to be they're not going to really chase a bait down. I mean, if we get lucky and find some schools in open water like Brian and them had down in Talquin in their tournament down there, you know, if you find those schooling up blacks, yeah, those won't be too hard to catch. I have a feeling, though, they're going to be in a little more dormant pattern. I'm definitely not going to write it off, and I'll definitely be looking for schools that are out suspended, you know, out off the brush, you know, they may be just a couple boat lengths off, or they could be right out in the middle of the creek, but you kind of got to keep them honest. But still, I don't think we'll see a lot of that tomorrow. What I'm expecting is, you know, deep structure, and, you know, but when you do, it'll definitely, hey, Mike 6. You know, they're going to be piled up, big bunches of fish. The trick is, how do you get them to bite? So basically, I showed you what's going to be in these boxes. Of course, everything, you know, is always subject to change. You gotta, you know, we basically have a hypothesis of what's going on, and then we're going to test it as soon as we get out there. And I got 6 rods tied up. I got 6 of the B&M TCBs series tied up, all with 2-pound SOS, and I'm stepping them all down to fluorocarbon. I'm going ahead and expecting a tough bite, so I'm going ahead and putting fluoro on everything. It's a little more of a pain in the butt, but definitely on a tough bite can really, so I expect, you know, I've never found a situation where, you know, where dropping down to fluorocarbon is going to make the bite worse. Yeah, so basically I went ahead and just took that variable out. That's just one thing I don't feel like really, I'm not going to have enough time. We got rain coming in, so I'd like to, you know, we're going to get about half the day in tomorrow, so I need to really get this figured out pretty quick. We got Mondo Madison on here. So I think what we'll do is, I'm just going to show you the 6 setups I've got. So basically my number one thing I'm going to try to do once we locate these fish, and we will find them, in the first profile I'm going to throw at them, or the first thing I'm going to do is try to establish, well, 2 things. That there's 2 variables I got to get dialed in before we're going to catch fish. Number one is the profile that it's going to take to get them to actually eat. And number 2 is the style of presentation they're wanting. So we got to figure out, we got to get the right profile. And then we have to figure out what we have to do with that profile to actually get them to eat it. So if I can get those things dialed in, then we'll have a pretty good day. Now, if I can dial in the color and, you know, get that variable dialed in, then we're going to have a really good day. And then, you know, then it's off to the races. But we got to find a profile that they'll eat, and then we have to find the proper presentation. Brian said he caught all his fish in Florida on the tungsten eye-hole jig and black and chartreuse. So there's a big crappie masters tournament down on Talquin, and those guys did really good. And you know, they were using the tungsten eye-hole jigs. Colors on Cumberland this time of year, I'm gonna be pretty, very not aggressive at all. I'm gonna keep everything real natural. So like he was saying, they were using black and chartreuse, which is a great combination. But sometimes these fish on like this super, super clear water, and the water's going to be as clear as it gets. I mean, it's like ice clear. And, so when it's like that, I like to use very subtle hints of color. So basically first thing I'm going to throw, this is a 16th ounce tungsten eye-hole jig. And then I've got a original crappie magnet, but I've bitten 2 ribs off of it to shorten the profile just a little. And then I've got, you can see it, I've got a pink slab bite in the eye. So the only really color I'm putting on there is just a tiny bit of pink in the eye hole. And we'll start with this. And if they'll eat this, it's going to be a great day, because this is a profile that if they're really going to eat it and you really get them patterned in, when they get this, you almost always catch them. But really, so this is pretty much the first thing I'm going to throw at them. And if that works, then I'll stick with it. But the first adjustment that I'm going to make is the next thing, let's say I find a group of fish and they'll follow that but not quite eat it. Well, then I'm going to put this This is number 2 on the depth chart. What this is, and I could use different colors. I've got confidence in this color right here because this was just dynamite the last time I was out here. So I went ahead and left this pink jig head. So I've got a pink tungsten eye hole jig here. And yeah, so Brian was saying that they had a more blackish brown color, which is much different than Cumberland, which is definitely why I think that black and chartreuse combination probably played down there in Florida really, really well. So what we got here is we got Show Enough, and this is the cross. And we weren't really expecting this bait to be as good as it is, but man, it is really, this has been by far, I think that and the tungsten eye hole Popeyes have been by far the superior baits on Cumberland all winter. So you can just see how that tail, and it's a real thin profile, just real natural looking. And then you've got the chartreuse head, and then I'm always going to pink head, and I'm going to put the black slide bites in this one just to give it some contrast. So this is going to be number 2. So if they either follow or won't commit to that one, those 2 I'll be throwing a lot. Those will be when I look at a fish, I'm going to throw either one of those on there first. So then number 3, if I can't get them to bite that, then I'm going straight super small. And this is very common for this time of year on Cumberland, is to go down really small with a Popeye jig. So this right here is a 64th, that's a 64th ounce black Popeye jig. And then I've got a little bitty BB, if I can get it stopped here, you can see BB size split shot. So this is super stealthy. So if those fish that maybe they won't, if they bite or if they chase that or follow but won't exactly eat it, I'm going to follow it up with this. And typically speaking, if they're not going to eat that, they're going to eat this. And one difference in the rigging so this is going to be more of a vertical presentation when I put the split shot above it. And then I'm going to go to this. I'm actually tying a Palomar knot on this one. So I'm going to be basically, if I'm going to be fishing this little Popeye on these fish, I'm going to try to get pretty close to them and get that bait to come vertically down to there. And then I'm just going to hover it above it. I'm going to get that fish interested here. And then I'm just going to slowly lift and it comes up. And a lot of times I'm probably going to set the hook without ever trying to feel the fish. I'm just going to see where he's close to distance. There's no more daylight between him and the bait. And then I'm going to guess and catch him like that. Hopefully we don't have to go to that, but I'm fully ready to do that. And then if, let's say, there's even times where I've had to go even smaller than the 64th, and then you start getting into some crazy stuff. Like I got some 1/120th little Popeye hand ties. I've also got a 1/180th. I mean, you're talking crazy small here. And like I said, it's not always about doing what you want to. When I get to that point, it's about doing what I have to. But I'm fully ready. I'm fully prepared for that. But typically speaking, in those first 3 setups right there, I'm going to be able to determine what it's going to take to get one to bite. Now, I made the point there. When I'm fishing that more vertical style presentation, I'm going to tie that Palomar knot. On these other ones here, I'm just tying my loop knot on this, and that's going to really free this jig up here. It's going to give it a lot more movement, and especially if we got fish that are going to be like out schooling or willing to chase, really want that loop knot on there, which really frees that jig up and gives it just a more natural presentation. Much better when you're just kind of getting the bait and you're just kind of twitching that, like with that little cross and that little twitching action. And once you're just trying to get a fish, these fish are going to be they're going to be like stationary in a ball or around a piece of structure or in a school. But they're going to be like this. And the whole trick is you're going to keep your bait above them, and you're going to have to get one to be watching them on live scope, and you're going to have to get that fish to commit out of the pack. And when he does, as soon as he moves, then you can pull it away from him, and he's going to come and get it. So, Brian, buddy of mine, one of my clients actually, Jay Jackman, ties some of those little bitty Popeyes. So there's not a whole lot of guys that really tie stuff down that, but Jay's real good at it. Ties a lot of flies and stuff. So he came up with that. And there's a couple little stuff. So if you need some of those, just holler at me on those super small stuff, and I can get you set up with him. So then another profile I'm going to have tied on here. And especially this one here is just going to be pretty much if I've got fish schooling. I know that if I've got fish just in open water in a school, which are typically everything I'm talking about here, once again, is going to be relating to black crappie. We're not going to even mess with any whites at all. It's going to be all black crappie. So if I've got these fish out schooling, like I really would love to see them, this 16th ounce tungsten and the blue and white, and I put a chartreuse slide bite in that on the eye hole of that one. And then I've got one more profile. So let's say I've got some really stubborn fish, or we catch a few of them and they just completely, oh yeah, Keith Madison's on here. Keith ties some really good stuff. He's actually tied a lot of stuff for me too. This one here, this is gonna be a little further down the depth chart, but this is trout magnet. And this is the color that they don't really make, but it's very, very cool. I'm not sure, I'm just gonna call it like icicle. This is kind of reminds me of, but I'm just wanting something natural. This has got a blue with some rainbow flake. And, but I'm putting it on, it's got on the gray tungsten eye hole jig, and I'm putting the chartreuse slide bite in that one. And that one is, yeah, this is something we're gonna just follow up if I have a problem getting the fish to commit. And then, but basically once they show us what they want, then that's gonna be the route I'm gonna be using, or I'll change over. If we can identify the profile, let's say they're gonna bite that cross tomorrow, then I'll rig up several different colors of that. And then I've got a pretty good confidence in this. So this is a Tennessee shad cross with a white tungsten eye hole. That's gonna be my last one. And like I said, you know, they're always subject to change, but basically I've got 6 setups, all 2-pound trout magnet SOS line as the main line, and that stuff's super tough. There's no, on a TCB, I never go more than 2 anymore. And then I'm stepping them all down to a really small fluorocarbon. And then later on this week, I'll show you that connection I'm tying. I've got one that I'm comfortable with. There's definitely 3 or 4 other really good connections for either braid to fluoro, or in this case, it's a mono to fluoro connection. I'm just tying one that's easy, that I'm comfortable with, that I've tied for a lot of years, but it's definitely not the best one. I think the probably uni to uni connection, or the I think it's called the Alberto knot. It's more of a fly fishing thing, but that's probably one of the best connections you can tie. It's a little bit harder for me to tie, especially in the wind and out in the water, and in these super thin diameters, it's super hard. So I'm using a surgeon's knot, 7-turn surgeon's connection, and that's something that I can tie in most conditions with these super light diameters. Even in the wind, I can still get it, and I feel comfortable with it. I've got confidence in what it'll do. So basically, we're gonna find the fish, and once we get that part accomplished, which I don't think will be too hard, and it's gonna be most of the day is gonna be about getting them to bite. Boat control, we got light wind, so I'm kind of excited about that. We got rain moving in. So fish, I fully expect to be super lethargic. You're gonna have to earn every single bite. I don't think there's gonna be any easy bites, but I think we're gonna be able to catch some real big fish. I'm gonna say have a shot at a 3-pounder tomorrow, whether we can get her to eat and get her in the boat. But there's definitely, these fish should be egging up. Biggest one I ever caught was first week of February, so on Cumberland. So there's that fish I had on the other live feed that was a mounted fish. But yeah, so this is the time of year to catch a big one. I'm excited. We're gonna do some more of these live feeds. So tell me what helps, any more ideas you have for them. I'm gonna do one later on this week on just more of this stuff, tackle organization. Basically, we'll go through the different boxes. I'm waiting for some stuff to come in, and then we'll be able to, I'll basically get everything set up. But biggest goal I have is basically everything manageable, right where I know where it's at. Not a whole lot of stuff in here to sit there and confuse everything. Basically everything in here is, and this is gonna be what I call my working box. And this is gonna be when I very seriously doubt I'll be outside of this all day. Possibly if we have to drop down to some of these little bitty Popeyes. I really don't think we'll have to. Hope not, but you never know. So, yeah, we'll definitely go through. I'll go through even putting, I'll be later on this week, I'll be getting everything ready. So I'll be getting 20 or 30 rods lined up. So we'll go on how I put line on the reels, connection. I'll do a fluoro to mono to fluoro connection. I'll show you how to tie that. We'll do different stuff on those different ones this week. I don't know. We could do 2, but we'll definitely get another one in, and packing organization, boat setup, and all that stuff. Guys, I'm going to get ready to go check on the boat. A couple tips when you're fishing in the winter. Wear your life jacket. That water, I don't know what it's going to be, but definitely if I fall in, you're going to be in trouble real quick. So wear life jackets. Check your batteries before you go. Like, I've got lithium batteries, they're plugged in. I'm still going to tonight go make sure and just double check them, make sure, because this time of year, if you don't, like your lithium batteries, like a lot of us have gone to lithiums, and if you don't go check those, sometimes they'll go into what's called protection mode or sleep mode, a lot of us call it. Well, if that happens and you're like a 36 volt battery like mine, like on my trolling motor, if it went into sleep mode, you're going to have to jump that with 36 volts to wake it up. That's not an easy thing to do unless you have a jump box, but my guys at Hammerhead built for me, because it's pretty hard to jump a 36 volt battery. So just make sure your batteries are in awake mode, because they can be fully charged, but in protection or sleep mode, and then you get out in the water, and then you're going to have to go back to your storage unit or home and figure it out, because you're not going to be able to fix it from on the water. So double check your batteries this time of year. Make sure you got plenty of gas. Make sure everything's in good working order. You do not want to get out there in a boat that you don't know if it's going to start or not. So, especially when it's this time of year. So just make sure everything's in good working order. Make sure, you're good on your service. Make sure you trim your lower unit down when you're done. And really get all that water out. It's a great way to really mess you up for the spring, is if I forget and get in a hurry and, fish longer than I should and running trying to get home in time and forget to drain that lower unit out. And then you go back and crack that sucker. Next time you go out, you're going to be out all spring and be an unhappy camper. So things like that, just be careful, take your time. Always give yourself double the amount of time you think you need. Don't get in any hurry with the ice. Just, slow and steady wins the race. Well, guys, I'm going to try and get you as much content as I can tomorrow on the water, just breaking it all down. Hopefully, so Charles is asking about where to look for roaming crappie. I'll definitely be looking for them, Charles. So, and it is one of my favorite things to do on black crappie is to catch them schooling. They'll be roaming, but they'll be in a school, versus white crappie roaming are going to be like, we got Jason Cook on here. Jason Cook has forgot more than I'll ever know about fishing white roaming crappie. He goes down on Big 4 down in Mississippi, and Jason is a monster on those things. So as far as, where to look at him on his kind of lake, he'd be a better reference to me, but where I'm going to be looking at it, for these fish, they could be around bait. There's just not necessarily this time of year. They're going to suspend and get high up in the water column, especially on like sunny days, and just be in there just trying to soak in the radiation. So they can really, but they're typically, from my experience, you're going to find the last deep water as you're moving towards the spawning area up a creek arm. And the colder it is, they might be insulated back into being a little bit deeper water, because that's going to be a little bit warmer. But, as soon as we get like a warm rain, so now creeks are kind of set up in the winter, the way they're stratified for the winter. You got your warmest water will actually be main lake, your deepest water. But basically, when we get the first warm rain, like in February, and it's going to happen, and what's going to happen is you're going to get a warm water running in on the head of the creek, which is going to increase the temperature. It's also going to muddy the water up. And when that water muddies up, and you get a sunny day, it's going to heat up 4 or 5 degrees. Even if it's a cold day, just by the sediment, it's going to soak in more radiation from the sun and heat that water, the surface temp up. So basically what happens is when that happens and you get the warmest water in the head of the creek, you're going to see this transition from this deep kind of dormant winter pattern, more into an offshore roaming, suspending fish thing. And then that's when everything in the lake, including the bait fish, are all going to push back to that warmest water in the head of the creek. And then that's where you're going to be looking at. You're going to be looking at the transition from that deep water, where it starts to transition to where it flattens out and shallows. And I'm talking out in the middle of the creek channel or in the main part of the creek. And then that's where you're going to start looking for them. And then you're going to keep working your way back up shallower until you run into them. Versus right now, I think the conditions are going to have there could have been fish even further back, and then it's just gotten so brutally cold. I feel like it's going to push them all the way back, and they should be staging out there in the first deeper, so if you're in the shallow part of the creek going out toward the main lake, right as it transitions from the flat part of the creek to like a deeper main area, then you're going to be looking for them off, anywhere out in that area, and you're just going to have to cover a lot of water. But once you find one bunch, you're going to find more. And typically speaking, once you find a section of the creek that's got the life in it, that's where, some of these creeks on Cumberland are like 10 or 15 miles long. I mean, they're the size of a lot of lakes, and you just got to break them down, and either you basically work up the creek from the main lake, or go all the way to the head of the creek and work your way out. There's two different thoughts, and some people like to do it one way. I personally, this time of year, would basically just start at the main lake and work my way back until the water starts to transition. You can do a lot of this with your mapping, and figuring out where you start to see where the creek starts to flatten out, and then, back it up a little bit, maybe a mile, and then start looking in that area, and then just keep working your way back, and you're eventually going to run into them. Well, guys, I'm excited about to break the drought. I'm going to head to the storage unit, check on the boat, get everything ready. So you guys got any more questions or any more topics that you're interested in, just put them in the comments, and we'll get out there, and I'll get them addressed later on this week. And I'll let you know ahead of time on the next live feed, so people can plan for that. But I don't know, we got several people on here right now, so this might be a good time of evening to do it. And guys, I'm looking forward to getting back with y'all tomorrow or the next day, and we'll let you know how we do. And we'll see you on the water, and sore lip them all.